I want to warn our viewers, the officer-involved shooting you're about to see is graphic. In this case, prosecutors cleared police, ruling lethal force was justified because officers reasonably feared apparent death. Some viewed that decision as a clear sign the suspect who allegedly attacked police with two 10-inch knives should spend decades in prison. Turns out he won't. In late June of 2017, with sirens blaring, police raced to Dudley Drive in Shreveport, responding to a 911 call.
Shreveport police.
Yeah, y'all need to send the police out here. This kid's coming up the street with two knives right now.
Of a violent attack against a SWEPCO utility worker.
With his fist, and he got two butcher knives, too.
By a man armed with knives, terrorizing a neighborhood.
He walking over this way with the knives. Going back down the street with him now.
Dash cam video from a police cruiser shows 3 Shreveport officers sizing up the scene.
It'll be him in that black right there in that white chair.
That's when this man, Kenny Ruffin, quickly confronted them, waving 2 large knives, ignoring repeated police commands.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife!
When Ruffin suddenly lunges, officers open fire, shooting him multiple times. Wounded, lying on the ground, Ruffin tried attacking one last time, sitting up and throwing a knife at police. Surviving the officer-involved shooting, Ruffin got medical treatment at University Health. Then, the 31-year-old man with a long, violent criminal history was taken into custody by Shreveport police, charged with 1 count of simple battery and 3 counts of attempted murder. But 7 months later, inside a Caddo Parish courtroom, the attempted murder charges against Ruffin got dropped when he agreed to plead guilty to a single count of resisting arrest by force.
The evidence just did not support any other charge.
Pena Moses Field is a second assistant district attorney. She didn't prosecute Ruffin, but during an interview at the Caddo Parish DA's office. Some people look at this video, they're going to say his intent was to kill those officers.
But we have to base that decision on the totality of the evidence.
Moses Field defended the plea deal, saying the dash cam video.
Everyone would be able to look at a video and come to their own conclusion.
And the rest of the facts in this case.
When you look at the distance between the officers and the defendant, we have to weigh all of those things into consideration.
Didn't support 3 counts of attempted murder, according to Moses Field.
In this particular matter, resisting an officer by force was more appropriate.
I beg to differ. The prosecutors, in my opinion, on this case, let the officers down and the citizens of Shreveport down.
That is former Shreveport Police Chief Jim Roberts. He watched video of the attack with me for the first time.
They had no choice but to open fire on him,
saying prosecutors botched the case by refusing to take Ruffin to trial.
I think any competent jury in Caddo Parish would have found this man guilty of at least 1 count of attempted murder.
Moses Field disagrees, despite the threat of violence against the officers.
He clearly was disobeying what they were telling him to do. They gave him verbal commands to put his weapon down, and he failed to do that.
She says it's not clear Ruffin wanted to kill.
If that wasn't the case, then why did the officer shoot?
Well, now we're getting into speculation. And as far as the video and what took place, all I can say is basically we have files that come into the office and we have to look at what we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And we have evidence and reports that we have to base that on. And it can't be just on speculation.
Reading the prosecution's file through a public records request, I discovered this handwritten note on the inside of the folder. Defendant may have bipolar schizophrenia.
Oftentimes when certain information is provided to an ADA, they will write those notes down to see if defense is going to present something to support that.
So I asked if the DA's office believes Ruffin is mentally ill.
I think in this particular case that was a possibility, but there was nothing provided that would support that.
And whether the possibility played a role in reducing the attempted murder charges. Moses Field said issues of mental health are raised by defense counsel and the courts, not the district attorney.
If it would have been, there would have been a sanity commission, there would have been additional steps that would have been taken through the legal process to support it.
That's a crock. That's ridiculous, right? Prosecutors bring cases. Defense lawyers don't. A prosecutor makes the decision, for whatever reason, to prosecute a certain case. So therefore, the prosecutor should be the quote-unquote master of that file, of that case.
Jay Florence is a local criminal defense attorney with a decade of trial experience. And while he knows prosecutors are busy,
and I understand, right? You have a caseload of 200 cases, and there's only so many hours in a day.
Florence fears the Ruffin case, a matter he did not defend, will eventually end in tragedy.
Ultimately, what's going to happen in the case that we talked about, this guy's going to end up on the streets. Somebody's going to die.
Saying the DA's office seems more concerned with closing the case than solving a bigger problem.
In their minds, it's quicker, it's easier, and it's cheaper. He didn't have specific intent to hurt, to kill, to harm, but there was something going on that caused him to do this thing. Let's find out why.
Reaching out to Ruffin's public defender and Shreveport police, neither office replied to my request for comment. But officers with direct knowledge of the case and Ruffin's criminal background spoke to me off camera, a conversation I relayed to Moses Field.
They're concerned, and others that have seen this, is that this was an instance where a gentleman who has a serious mental illness wasn't dealt with properly in the system. It was simply charge him with the least thing that we could and push this away. We don't want to deal with a mentally ill patient in our jail or in the court.
And are those officers trained medical professions, or are they law enforcement?
There are officers that are on the street and have had much contact with this individual.
Okay, but the thing about it is, as far as our file and our case record, we have to move forward based on the evidence, and nothing was provided to us that would support any medical history.
This man should have been charged with attempted murder.
In the end, former Chief Roberts,
there will be other confrontations if he does not get some sort of behavioral treatment.
and Florence share the same opinion.
We all lose.
Saying the DA's office failed to serve the public's best interest in this case.
But is it a true victory for society in a whole? Nothing's been solved. So if nothing has been solved, then how is there a victory?
In January, Kenny Ruffin was sentenced to 3 years in prison for resisting an officer with force and given credit for the 6 months he served before his plea bargain. Originally, he also faced a count of simple battery for allegedly punching a SWEPCO worker, but that charge, just like the 3 attempted murder charges, was dismissed by prosecutors.